Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. So, you said you're a walker dog man. How did you end up with an English dog?
Well, it's kind of a funny story how that happened. So my female chick, as I was telling you about, which my kennel name is Hard Talking Kennel. I call her HTK's hybrid side chick, and she's my side chick. But she was what's the best way to put it? She's very special to me, put it that way. When I got her, she was a nervous wreck. I couldn't put my hands on her, couldn't touch her. She didn't trust me.
Was she a puppy or an older dog?
She was about a year old when I got her.
Okay.
And I started working with her, and she started to trust me. We built a bond, and I worked in the evenings. I worked at Tractor Supply, and I was able to take her, when I got off work, and I would hunt all night long, just me and that dog. And, she started to, show some interest, and she started getting out there running track and eventually getting treed. And at that time, I was just getting into the competition world.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't quite ready to put her in any hunts yet, but I had a buddy that had a pretty nice dog, and he allowed me to hunt him, and I won 3 or 4 casts straight with that dog. And
nice.
I mean, he was hands down one of the best dogs that I ever hunted with. He's not here anymore, but make a long story short on that, I started sooner than later. I started hunting chicks.
Okay.
Some competition hunts, and it just kind of took off from there. I ended up breeding her about 2 years ago, which she's 5 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some pups, and surprisingly, every pup out of that cross was just phenomenal. You've got 2 pups that are night champions, and then you've got one that he's lacking 2 wins for grand night champion. I actually kept one pup myself. Her name's Remy. I'd gotten rid of her when she was about 5 months old, and then I ended up getting her back.
Okay. And that's the blue female you've got right now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I started working with her. She had some little, some things that she needed, quirked.
Mm-hmm.
And she just turned 2. And in the last 4 weeks, I put her in 5 competition hunts, and I've won 4.
Wow. That's pretty good. She
needs 1 win for night champion, and along with that, we're running for the SC Governor's Cup.
Okay.
Which is a race that goes from January to December. And right now, we are in the top 16, and we need 1 more win. That'll put us in the top 10.
Nice.
So she's been good to me. I'm liking her a lot. She's deadly accurate. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of qualities in her mama, that she has. She has that loving personality.
Mm-hmm.
She'll just stand up on you and hug you, and I'm going to tell you, it's one of the best feelings to be able to hunt something, out of a cross that you made,
Oh, yeah.
Something out of your own line. Chick, as I was telling you earlier, which she's crossed, she's half walker, she's half English. A lot of people don't know this because she looks like a red dog.
Yeah, she looks like a red tick English.
Yep, she looks like a red tick English. But she's actually got all grand pedigree. Her mom is directly out of Nighttime Savage, which is a walker dog. Nighttime Savage is out of Old South Stylish Rebel.
Okay.
And Nocturnal Jody, which was the #1 reproducing walker cross in Walker history. Um, and then on our English side, she's out of Hatchery River Dottie. She's out of Cold Stone Steel,
Mm-hmm.
which Cold Stone Steel is out of Hatchery River Dottie, which is the number one reproducing English female of all time,
Yep.
and Briar Creek Chrome. And
Oh.
a lot of people, they swear by the Hatchery River Dottie dog, and a lot of people swear by that cross,
Okay.
that on our Walker side.
I don't know much about English dogs, but I can tell you I've heard that Hatchie River Dottie female, and I've heard that she was one heck of a reproducer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm gonna tell you, those pups. I mean, they're doing phenomenal. They're doing phenomenal. And like I said earlier, it feels good to be able to hunt stuff out of a cross that you made.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see those pups turn on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, sir. I just, I love it.
Well, people aren't familiar with who you are. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is DeAndre Williams. I go by Dre Outdoors. That's what most people know me by. Most people call me Dre. I've been hunting since I've been about, I'm going to say 15, 16 years old. How I got into coon hunting is actually a funny story. So when I had a buddy that he ran deer dog,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not big into that. I'm not big into it at all. But he decided he was gonna get him a coon dog.
Okay.
So this old fella, he had a coon dog, and he said, "I'll give you this coon dog if you gonna hunt him." So they gave him the coon dog, and we went hunting. It was a Walker dog, and he was out of a bloodline. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tequila Sunrise.
Yep.
Well, he was out of that Tequila Sunrise dog,
mm-hmm.
and we took that dog hunting. And I mean, I just loved the way he sounded. He was a steady ball type dog on track, and he had this big booming locate. And when he rode it over, he was one of the hardest tree dogs I've ever heard in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We hunted that dog, and I'll tell you, we never saw a coon with him. But I enjoyed just seeing that dog work. I enjoyed seeing that dog work. I mean, he was flashy. He was quick. Never saw a coon, but I just love seeing that dog, work a track. I love, just hearing him run a track, and I just love, watching him tree.
That's
and
funny.
I kind of fell in love with it ever since. And when I started out, I was young. I didn't have much money. I started out with the reject dogs.
Yeah.
I got a few that was, they would do something every once in a while, but they were never what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally saved up enough money to get me a pup. And that kind of really started everything.
Okay.
And this pup here, his name was Hawkeye. Hard talking Hawkeye. I got him at 6 weeks old, and to this day, he was the most accurate dog I've ever owned. He treated his first coon at 5 months of age, and
wow.
he never really looked back. He was, he wasn't the best. He wasn't a good competition dog, but I could guarantee when he treated, he was gonna have a coon.
Why do you say he wasn't a good competition dog?
He just was more of a easygoing, type dog. He wasn't, quick strike dog on the ground.
Okay.
He kind of would hunt around you,
Mm-hmm.
But he treated coons. He was a meat dog, and
I was just
some
curious.
people would say,
I mean, I think everyone's got a different opinion of what a competition dog is and what's not, and why a dog's not. So that's why I was just curious as to why you said he wasn't.
Oh yeah, he just in my point of view, a good competition dog, a good competition dog for now. You want a dog that's quick to open on the ground, and that's looking to be by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, him, he wasn't a dead loner. Um, he wasn't a dead loner by any means, but when he treed, he was gonna have a coon.
Yeah.
But right now, with the way the rules work, the best way to win is to get 100 and 125. So if you've got a dog that can get in there, get struck quick, and take 125 every time, you've got the best odds at winning. So
Yeah.
that's what I look. That's what I look for in a competition, though.
Makes sense.
I look for a dog that's gonna get its mouth open quick and that's
Mhm.
gonna be by itself with a raccoon.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to beat that 225. If you
Right.
can get that 225 out the gate, that means they got to trade 2 just to beat your 1.
Exactly.
So
Yes, sir. But yeah, those pups. I call Chick. I don't know if I said it, earlier or not, but I call Chick. HTKs. Hybrid side Chick. My
mhm.
my kennel name is Hard Talking Kennels. Um, and I'm kind of trying to carry that, that line on. I call Remy HTKs Hybrid Remy. The hybrid thing.
Mhm.
It comes from things being a Walker English cross.
Yep.
So my plan is to carry that line on and just keep hunting what's working because
Now,
I'm loving it as of
oh yeah.
now.
Now, what made you get Chick? How'd that come about?
So I got Chick from a fella up north out of Indiana, and it was a young fella. We were supposed to be I was supposed to be hunting a dog for him, and he didn't come through on what he was supposed to do.
Gotcha.
And Chick, she was in bad shape,
Mhm.
and I called his dad, and I was like, "Listen," I said, "he's not coming on. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. He's not putting up, his part of the agreement." I said, "This dog, when I got her, she was in, bad shape. It was obvious, that she'd been abused,
Mhm.
and I was like, I put a lot of work into this dog, um, and I'm not sending her back. Yeah, and I'd already talked to his uncle, and his uncle was telling me like he had told him several times, stop treating that dog that way.
Yeah.
That she had a lot of potential,
Mhm.
and his dad was like, you know what? He said, I'm gonna handle that, and he said, I'm gonna go ahead and send you the paperwork in the mail. She's your dog. You can have her.
Gotcha.
And um, that's just how that went.
I was just curious because you said you were a Walker man, and so I was wondering how you ended up with this expert dog.
Yes, sir. It's crazy. It's a crazy story for sure. Um, right now, I've got one Walker dog. Right now, I've got one Walker dog. So it's crazy how I've got more English, but I'm a Walker man.
I think
Uh,
I think you might as well just hang up that Walker hat and pick up an English one because I think
hey,
you're an English
it
man
might
now.
happen. It might happen. It might happen. But I like to pick with people. I'll pull up to the hunt, and they'll be like, "Man, you hunt an English dog?" I say, "No, this is a Walker." Yes, sir. I say, "No, this is a Walker."
Just a
But
tipped up
I've
one.
got a pup. I don't know if you've heard of Redneck Backwoods Shack. Have you heard of that dog?
I've hunted with Shaq.
Okay. Well, I've got a puppy off of Shack
Mm-hmm.
and Wipeout Zucci.
Okay.
I believe this was a second time cross. This pup is probably the most natural starting pup I've ever had. She's 9 months old right now. She ran her first track at 4 months old,
Mm-hmm.
and when I took her to the woods, I didn't put a tracker collar on her, and I cut her loose, she bails out of there, chick bails out of there, and another buddy of mine was hunting his dog. They go half a mile. She hooks to the left about 400 yards, and I mean, she's straight blistering a track. And I about had a heart attack because I didn't put a tracking collar on her.
Yeah.
She gets in there to locating, and she shuts up, and I never hear anything from her again. And I'm over here freaking out to my buddy. I'm not gonna find my dog. Blah blah. This she gonna get run over by a car. You know, I was flipping out. And so we go in there. We walk the chick's tree. I'm like, hopefully she shows up on the way back out.
Yeah.
We go to the chick. Chick has a coon, and she's treed in this guy's backyard. And I know we've all been there. When she's treed in this guy's backyard, she's got a raccoon. We pull him off the tree. We walk back down through the woods about 600 yards, and we cut back loose. Well, we cut back loose, and then we walk out, and we walk around. We walk all the way around the property to go back around where we cut loose originally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're standing there, and about where she was locating at is where chick and other dog got treed.
Okay.
So we walk in there. Guess who's standing at the tree? The puppy. And I call her Spice.
She just didn't know what to do yet.
She's standing at the tree, and we look up there, and it's two coons sitting up there.
Nice.
About two or three times later of taking her, she trees with Hawkeye, which was the best dog I ever owned,
mm-hmm.
which I'll proceed to telling you what ended up happening to him in a minute. But we get in there. He's got a coon, and she's in there. She's hammering with him. I decided to take her and Remy, and I usually wouldn't hunt two young dogs together like that.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm going to try something tonight. And I took those two pups, and they got split treed about 100 yards apart.
Nice.
And she's like 5 months old at the time, or 6 months old. And she gets split treed with a coon. And I knocked that thing out. And, it seems like when you really want the coon out, this always happens. Well, I shot this coon, and, it didn't want to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But,
we've all been
anyway.
There. Did it get hung up?
Oh, yeah, it got hung up. But, yeah, it was a good night, got a coon on her. She was 6 months old, and
yeah,
I was very proud. And she never looked back since then. She's been running and treeing coons. She ran a few deer, She's ran a few deer. I haven't broken her from it yet, but we'll be working on that soon.
I know Shaq was junky when he was young.
Right.
Shy told me that.
I haven't broken her of it yet, but she's treed some coons, and and that's the main thing, I like about her. I don't know if you've ever heard of, the backwoods sliding Clyde dog.
Can't say I've heard of him.
Well, he's off of Shaq, and I think he's won over $225,000 so far.
Okay.
Well, I was watching a podcast of that dog, and I was having a little problem with her, and I was listening to the podcast, and he was talking about how his dog would backtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of, I was listening to that, and I was like, oh, okay. So I cut Spice loose one night, and I cut her loose on a feeder bucket because, I knew the coon was there. I saw on the camera which way the coon had went.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut her loose, and she went in there. She got to run in the track. And right now, she runs every track the same. I mean, she's the same way on every track. So it's kind of hard to tell whether she's running a colder track or a hotter track.
Yeah.
Well, she gets to running that track backwards because I know which way the coon went.
Mm-hmm.
She gets in there. She's treed on a den tree. I pull her off of it. I walk her. And I thought the wipeout in her was going to make her want to, stay on it. But I cut her loose, and she got to run it the right way, and she had a coon. So, I've been working on that with her too. I'm glad I hit it early. That way, I didn't have to worry about it later on.
Yeah.
Where,
No, and I like that. Using the feeder buckets to know which way that coon went, to know which way that track goes.
Yes, sir. Yep. I usually put a feeder bucket out. I put a camera on it. If I'm hunting a really young dog like that, and that way you got coons there. So with her, being as having so much drive, she's not, she doesn't have much opportunity to run any other off game. It's still there, but chances are slimmer.
And also, there's a big difference of just free casting versus putting them on, a pretty hot coon.
Right, because they'll get bored, and a young pup, they'll get bored, real easily. So I try to give them the best opportunity they can have.
For sure.
But yeah, she's coming along nicely. Like I said, she's 9 months old, and I'm looking for her to be one of the nicest dogs that I own, here soon. She's coming along nicely.
Yeah.
But back to Hawkeye, I was hunting one night, and Hawkeye got hit, and I was absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
He was one of the best looking walker dogs that anyone could look at. He was houndy. I mean, he just was. When you looked at a walker dog, he was everything you wanted. He handled like a dream. He was smart. He was in the house till he was 6 months old.
Yeah.
I just love that dog.
That's rough.
And I lost him. You always lose the good ones. Seems like. And he might have not been the best thing, coming and going, but he was heck of a pup trainer.
Yeah.
I love that about him too. He didn't go far, and he was gonna have his coons. When he treed, he was gonna have a coon, and that's what's important to me. And that's the thing about this line. I feel like sometimes we get the breeding dogs a little too tight, and it could take the track out of them. And I'm starting to see it more and more. In the Walker breed and the English breed. But when you cross it like that, you kind of break that up.
Yeah.
And I feel like you bring back the coon treeing ability. And I know everyone has their different opinions on that, but
yeah. No, I mean,
that's just my take on it.
Hybrid vigor is well documented. When you take different breeds of, or even if you take two very, very tightly bred lines within the same breed and then cross those, you're going to get, a lot of times you get really good offspring.
Right.
So.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm going to tell you that line, as far as it goes with chick, I mean, it's not much I would change. They want to tree coons. That's the most important part. All the other stuff can come later. But they want the tree coons at young ages, and I'll tell you, the male pup I was telling you about that's lacking like 2 or 3 wins, the Grand Night champion. I kept him till he was about 6 months old, 5 or 6 months old, and I'm gonna tell you, first night in the woods, that pup went and he drove a cold track and treated a coon.
Wow.
Yep. I never took him to the woods. I worked with him in the yard a little bit, with drags and stuff like that with the other pups. But I never took him to the woods, and he was my pick of the litter.
Okay.
And I never took him to the woods, and I mean, that boy, he took him, and when I tell you he hunted that dog hard, he hunted him hard, and he made him what he is.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, he's a nice one. And like I said, you can't beat natural ability though. Like I said, first night in the woods, he running tree a coon. That's kind of rare.
Yeah.
And impressive. Yes.
Conkey's Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkey's motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkey's carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5
Well, I know you've kind of taken to
all
the
caps
competition
to save
scene.
as well.
I mean, you've done pretty well yourself.
Yes, sir.
What all have you won?
So I've been to Michigan Madness. I got in the Final Four. This was back when Chick was like 2 years old, 2 or 3, and I got in the Final Four of the Legacy Series. I drew. I think it was Dale Huff. He was hunting JB Money, JB Money, and I drew Tyler Sturry, I think his name is. He was hunting the Stylish Whack dog, and I drew a couple other nice dogs, and I think one was a Little Money dog, and I mean, I've never seen so many coons in my life. That week, I had to see about 40, just driving. This is just driving back and forth to hunt. I would see on average 5 coons a night.
Yeah.
Just driving. But Chick won her cast there. She had 350 plus that night, and she got in the Final Four. And another hunt that I went to and I won was I got in the Final Four North Carolina State hunt.
Nice.
I think that same year actually. And I, several single cast wins and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just local club hunts.
Yeah. So what is Chick a night champion, or is she a grand night?
Yes, sir. She is. She's a night champion. She is a night champion. And she's not lacking many to be grand night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be getting that soon. I'm not a big UKC hunter.
Okay.
I am running it. I am running UKC this year mainly because I wanted to get into the slam hunt and the Governor's Cup.
Yeah.
Remy, which was my keep out of Chick's litter, which I bred her to. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I bred her to world champion, SKC world champion, Hard Time Stoke Frozen Seaman.
Okay.
That Remy, I put her in 5 hunts in the last 4 weeks, and she's won 4 of those casts.
That's pretty good.
All with coon scenes and I'm proud of her. She's been looking phenomenal. Friday night I hunted and the coons weren't moving. The other dogs just blew out of the country, and Remy sat down 150 yards. She, I struck her, right out of the truck right after the minute was up. She worked that track for 20 minutes. I thought she was going to be running it for at least an hour. And she worked the track for 20 minutes and sat down about 150 yards from the truck. We walked in there. She had the coon, and it took me a while to find him because he was sleeping. And he finally woke up and he started spinning around in his nest. You could literally see him spinning around in his nest. And we plussed it up, and she treed the only coon in that cast, and then proceeded to do the same the next night.
Nice.
Where the coons just weren't moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that I like about these dogs. Very accurate, just layup artists, which your mom's a layup artist also. And that
comes in handy when they're not moving.
Oh yeah, being able to, take a tough track, finish it, being able to tree layups, just being able to, tree any kind of coon, that is.
Oh yeah.
that is definitely needed. You know, especially down here where I live. I don't know what the coon population is like where you're at, but I've got a lot of water around me.
Okay.
Swamps, and we got gators and
Nope.
all the
Forget that.
poisonous snakes, and
I'm out.
I'll tell you, we don't have many coons. So you got to have a dog, that's got a good nose on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Remy, she's been in 4 hunts, and she's got, she's been in 5 hunts, and she's got those 4 cast wins, which she's lacking 1 win for night champion,
Yeah.
and that 1 win would qualify her for Tournament of Champions for 2026. Currently, I'm in the top 16 of the Governor's Cup for the state of South Carolina.
Now, how does that work?
So basically, it's a points race.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to get as many cast wins as possible. So 1 cast win equals 1 point.
Okay.
At the bigger events like Grand American and Walker Days, you get 2 points.
Nice.
You get 2 points. But yes, sir, we're well on our way to top 10. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to get some wins this weekend. Hopefully, we'll get a win. 1 win will put us in the top 10. So I'm excited about that. But that pup, she's been on the road. The future's bright, and I'm definitely excited about her. And I don't know if I said it earlier, but it's just awesome to to see things out of a cross that you made,
Mm-hmm.
Perform well.
Yeah,
It's a great feeling. I love it.
What's the most memorable night of coon hunting you've ever had?
Most memorable night of coon hunting I've had. Well, one night I was coon hunting, and I had a fella from work. He came with me, and this is probably one of the most craziest experiences I've ever had. But a buddy from work, he said, "I got this spot. It's loaded with coons, and I want you to come hunt it." So got off work, and we turned loose. It was like right at dark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I cut Chick loose in there, and I had Hawkeye in the box. I cut Chick loose in there. Chick goes in there, trees a coon, and we knock it out to her, and it was on. And then we take them out the woods. We take her out the woods, and I decided to cut Hawk loose. And we squalled forever trying to get this coon to look. And it was crazy how it happened. So we cut Hawk loose. He goes in there. He trees on the same tree. I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm getting in there, and I'm all upset with him. And we get in there, and I'm looking at this tree, and I'm like, and I'm aggravated with him. I think he's just smelling, where the coon was.
Yeah.
And we start shining the tree good, and it's another coon up there. And I've treed in trees where it's been several coons in a tree like that,
Yeah.
but I've never had a dog go in there and tree a coon like that, or tree in the same tree like that. After you just pulled one off.
Yeah.
And I proceed to think. My thoughts to this day is that coon heard that one in distress. And when we walked out, that coon came in there to check stuff out.
That's possible.
And I think he ambushed it because I've never had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you another thing that happened. I was hunting on a pond. I cut Hawkeye loose, and he had an incredible nose and incredible, just winning ability. I cut him loose on the side of this pond. He went in there. I'm talking about he slammed that coon, and it was quick. And I got in there. I shot that tree. I could not find it. And my dad was with me. He was like, I think you need to shine that tree again. I looked right up above my head, and the coon sitting there. Well, what had me so kind of flustered about it was because he was half treeing on it, and he kept twirling around, throwing his nose up in the air, and then he went out into the pond because he was right on the side of it. He went into the pond and come back and treed on the tree.
Crazy.
Well, I shot the coon out, and he didn't want it. Turn around, got him back off the tree, and turn around, got him back off the tree, and he went back to treeing. And usually I tell him dead, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he's quiet. He goes out in the pond, starts swimming around in circles. This is no joke here. Coon drops out of a tree. Coon jumps out of a tree on the other side of the pond, right? Because it wasn't a big pond.
Okay.
Coon jumps out of the tree and takes off running down the bank.
Jeez.
Well, he goes and he trees it. He trees it in a rock pile. And that, to me, that was another crazy one. One of the best experiences I've had. Crazy experiences.
Yeah.
Going coon hunting.
Well, you're young. I'm sure you're gonna have a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, I've had on a windy night. I got to a point where I didn't understand what the purpose of these the hard bump caps were for. Well, it got windy one night, and the tree limb fell out and busted me in the top of my head.
Ooh.
And to this day, I believe if I didn't have that thing on, I'd still be down there in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had, man, those are some of my crazy experiences.
So you said your dad has gone with you. What do your parents and your family think? Since, like you said, you didn't grow up doing this. What do they think?
Well, my mom thought I was crazy. My mom could not understand, what it was that I wanted with a raccoon dog. That's what she calls it, a raccoon dog. But she could not understand it. And I told her, I said, I just love it. I felt like, a part of me was empty, but this, the coon hunting kind of filled it.
Yeah.
All right. My great grandfather, he died when he was 102.
Oh. Wow.
He trained bird dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And my grand aunt always told me, he said, she always told me, you got that from your great grandfather.
Yeah.
Because she said that he loved it just as much as I love coon hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I just I love it. And my dad actually, which he's not my birth dad, but he adopted me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
He coon hunted back when he was young.
Okay.
His grandparents had coon dogs, and he loved it, and he loves it, and he still goes with me sometimes when he can.
Nice.
But yeah, man, it's so he wasn't against it.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't against it.
Well, good deal.
Yes, sir. But yeah, yes, sir. I just love it, and I don't know if I can be without a coon dog now.
I understand.
I feel like I will always have one coon dog in my yard.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens, even if I slack up on it, or
Oh yeah.
it's just I love it so much.
Now
I love it so
the
much.
fact that you got bit by the bug with a dog that you never saw a coon with
Right?
says that you were definitely bit.
Yeah. I mean, to be a coon hunter, to be honest with you, I believe it's a second job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a second job, and if you're gonna do it, you're either in it or you're not.
Yeah.
That's really how I feel it like it goes. And like you said, I was bit. I was bit because from that point on, it's been on.
Mm-hmm.
It's been on. I slacked up with work, with the competition, with the competition hunts because of work for a while there. But I still would go, hunt and take the dogs,
Yeah.
But I don't see myself not having a coon dog.
Mm-hmm.
I questioned it. I did question, getting rid of everything when Hawk died, but it was,
Oh, for sure.
I have too much love. I have too much love for the ones I got sitting out there also.
Yep.
To just hang it up. I can't just get rid of them. They're like family. It's they are family.
Yeah.
So
Good deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me tonight.
Yes, sir. No problem. I enjoyed it.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep 'em talking in the timber.